Hey, everybody. Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Football Podcast. Jeff Erickson here with Chris Liss. The Team of Destiny rides again, and we're thankful for WinBet for sponsoring it. We'll be talking about that and a lot of weird other results from Week 9. It's always weird results, but this one was disappointing results. So we'll talk about that. But let's start right off at the top. The Team of Destiny, Chris. It rides again.
It's really one of the sickest things. I mean, okay, you got to understand Week 1, so just background for those of you who are not familiar. Dalton and I, when we were in Vegas for the RotoWire trip, I went down to Circa before I left on the Wednesday, went down there, plunked $1,000 down for the Survivor contest, $6 million prize. I guess they probably expected 6,500 people. Well, only 4,500 showed up. So there's already like this nice overlay just to begin. And Week 1, we go with Tampa. Remember, in Week 1, there wasn't like a great option. They're all like 7-8 point options, favorites. We go with Tampa. They were losing with like a minute left, and Brady drove them down for a game-winning field goal.
Yep.
Barely survived. Then in like Week 3 or 4, we took the Ravens. I took them over Denver, who was hosting the Jets and beat the Jets 31-0. The Ravens won on a 4th and 19 conversion by Lamar Jackson, then a 66-yard field goal by Justin Tucker, which doinked over the crossbar and in. Okay. Following week, we took the Patriots at the Texans. The Patriots were down 22-9 in the third quarter. This is not the Patriots that are now improving. This was the very bad Patriots. They barely won by a field goal. Okay. Then last week, we used up a lot of the good teams. I wanted to take the Bengals. Dalton insisted on the Chiefs. I really did not like the Chiefs. They're really bad. We took the Chiefs. The Bengals lose to the Jets. Chiefs barely hold on and win. Team of Destiny.
And you picked against your own team. Let's not bury that lead there.
Right.
You had to go
I really didn't want to.
Giants. But...
I didn't want to, and I hated the Chiefs. I thought the Chiefs were bad, and I was right. They were shaky, but they were good enough. And then this week, it was even crazier. So this week, we used the Colts and the Bills. Those were our top 2 choices. So then we're like, okay, what do we do now? And Cowboys, obvious number 3. They're 11-point favorites, 10.5-point favorites, went down to 10. And Dalton and I, for some reason, we weren't sure. We had a bad feeling about Dallas. We said, let's just sleep on it, meditate on it. Next day, we'll talk about it. So we talked about it Saturday morning, and we both were like, I don't feel good about Dallas. So that was off the list, and that was the obvious. And then he's like, I want the Saints. And he gave me his reasons. And I was like, I still think the Dolphins are the right play, even though Tyrod Taylor's playing, and that wasn't great. If it was Davis Mills, we would have taken the Dolphins, no problem. Tyrod Taylor plays, okay. And then he's like, I don't like the Tua's got a broken finger. I'm like, he'll be all right. He's practiced. I think 75-80% chance he plays. I'm like, look, I need you to sign off on this, but I feel okay about the Dolphins. And the thought I had was, it was like the Eagles last week going into Detroit and crushing them. When the team that's doing poorly, this 1-7, but it's just a bad team, plays a true doormat, they take it out on the doormat. That was kind of the theory. And the Dolphins, they're not a good team, but they're not a true doormat like the Lions or the Texans. So, okay. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm just going to, the line was 5.5, 6, and the Saints were 6.5, but it was close enough. I'm like, I just feel I'm going to go the Dolphins. And I thought to myself, it's another thing I thought, I'm not scared. I'm not scared to do this. Like, you can't be scared. It is what it is. It's like poker, right? Like, you got ace king, you're in position, you raise. Ace king's not good most of the time, but you can't be scared. You got to play it. You got to raise. You got to play the cards. This is the one I liked. I'm going to play it. It is what it is. Sunday, I go to a barbecue, get kind of drunk during the day, and I'm not really checking my my phone or anything. I get back, and Dalton's like, Tua's out, right? I'm like, oh shit, no. Really? Right? And then I'm like, well, they're still 4-point favorites. They're still favored to win. And I'm like, if we knew Tua was out on Saturday, we probably would have gone Saints. And guess what happened? The Dolphins won. They won this game. The Saints lost. The Cowboys got destroyed. The Bills lost. The Rams lost. The Ravens almost lost. It was sick. And I'm watching this game, and the Dolphins turned it over 3 times in the first half and lost their center for the game. And, of course, they were without their starting quarterback, and it didn't matter. Not only did they win, Jeff, they covered. You know what that means?
That means that you are the team of destiny. They were the team of destiny.
But that they covered also.
Tell me, what does that mean, Chris?
9-0 on best bets.
Oh, that's right. The other destiny.
1 in 512. It's just dumb luck. 1 in 512. It can happen. I mean, people win the lottery, a lot bigger odds than that. People get struck by lightning. It happens. But let's keep it going. It's it's 512 squared. We're halfway through, which is 260,000 ish. That's what I need to do for the rest of the season. But so far so good. And it was a great day. I mean, it was a horrible fantasy day. My primetime team is now, I think, first or second overall in points, and I still have players going tonight. So that was good. But some of my other teams did terribly. And I don't know how I did this. I left the Browns defense on the bench, 19 points, for the Bucks defense, which were on bye. I just didn't notice. It wasn't the kind of, I look before
you didn't
Thursday.
Scroll far enough down.
I just, it was one of those things where I was looking at all the skill guys and worrying about it. I just missed the fact that I had a bye week defense in. So that was a different league, but that was an NFFC that was in, mild contention. So that was unfortunate, I would have to say.
I'm starting to see that, though. I went up again in one league. I went up against someone who had left Murray in their active lineup. I went up against someone else that left Tua in their active lineup. And maybe the Tua thing caught them by surprise. But you should have been on guard for at least on Kyler Murray. You should have known better. It was a game time decision, had anything available. But hey, it is what it is.
Well, I was a victim of my own preparation, because usually on Thursday I clear out all the brush. If there's someone on bye, I already set the lineup on Thursday to fix it. I'm not waiting. There's nothing to wait for Sunday or whatever. But because I usually do that and I must have missed it, I didn't check on Sunday because I was like, oh, well, that's not something I check on Sunday. On Sunday, I'm checking late scratches, questionable guys, and then last minute tweaks, which are almost always a disaster. Where I'm just switching one guy in for another at the last minute because I look at the matchup again. But I'm not usually dealing with bye week defenses on Sunday. That's already done. So it just didn't occur to me. Plus I had a few drinks and I'm pissed. I would have probably lost the matchup anyway. So that's not, and it's probably that team's 6-2. It's going to be 6-3, but that's just a bad unforced error,
Yeah, it is. It's so funny. After our conversation on Sirius XM on Thursday about Survivor, I pivoted away from Dallas. I had a bad feeling about Dallas because in a couple, I actually had Buffalo remaining. Of course, obviously, we'll talk about that in a second.
I would use Buffalo. I would use Buffalo without even a second thought if I had them.
But in the others, I was like, screw it. I don't want Miami. Screw it. I don't want Dallas. I went with New England and I went with Baltimore.
Ooh, nice. Nicely done.
So
nicely done. That's it. That's a real man. New England's a 3.5 points when that kicked off. You just got to do it. I mean, you can't.
The more we talked about that game, the more I felt like, oh, no way that Carolina's going to beat them. No way. That offense is so bad. But then you see Jacksonville beating Buffalo, and it makes you wonder: is there anybody that's still good left in the NFL, or are we all? Here's the thing: we want to believe that these teams have fixed values, or at least a fixed range. But the range is so wide this year.
The range is wide. Yes, it is.
Buffalo. I mean, my God, how do you score 6 points against Jacksonville? How?
Yeah. Just make sure that the defense doesn't have a guy with the same name as your quarterback. That's the problem. If you I would start, if I would be a copycat. It's a copycat league. I would start hiring defenders. I would find a guy named Patrick Mahomes and put him on the, well, you don't need to do that anymore because he's terrible. I was just going to
say, what a waste of time.
No, that's a waste. That's a waste of you could stop him without that. But, I'd go and find, a defender named Russell Wilson or a defender named Tom Brady, of which those are relatively common names. I mean, there's people out there named that. I don't care how old he is, if he's 55 years old, whatever, just put him in. And that's the secret. That's obviously how you stop an offense in this league.
Who's good anymore? There's the Bucks.
The Bucks and I think the Rams are still good, although Tennessee really exposed them.
Yeah.
I think
Tennessee,
you got to get, their defense is good. Their defense is not bad.
Which is not what we thought early in the season.
Yeah, no, it's really weird.
Packers, I think, are good with Rodgers.
The Packers are good with Rodgers. The Packers actually played well. It was just Jordan Love is so bad. Jordan Love is so terrible. He just wasn't even. I'm just so glad he covered. He finally got that touchdown at the end. Alan Lazard made a nice move, got in the end zone, but that was huge for the cover. But the Chiefs are terrible. They couldn't even put that team away that had a quarterback that didn't know what he was doing. The Chiefs are really on the ropes. I think the Chiefs. Yeah. I'm glad we used them up in Survivor. I would not want to have the Chiefs on. I don't even want to think about it. And we'll do guess the lines tomorrow. But I already looked ahead. I already did mine, and you'll see. You'll see what the situation is.
All right. I'm looking forward to that. We'll keep breaking down some of these games, some of these teams in a second. But first, a note from our friends at WynnBET. If there's one thing we appreciate here at RotoWire, it's making good decisions, and even more so, making the right decision. Listen up, folks. I have an incredible offer for you with RotoWire's newest partner, WynnBET, the premier digital casino and sportsbook app. WynnBET is now the exclusive sponsor for RotoWire's fantasy podcast. WynnBET brings you all the latest action with a user-friendly interface, moneyline bets, boosted parlays, over-unders, round robins, live betting, and so much more at your fingertips. Want a break from sports betting? Head into WynnBET's digital casino and take a spin on roulette, double down in blackjack, slam the slots, or try your hand at baccarat. WynnBET is currently available in 6 states: Colorado, Indiana, Michigan, New Jersey, Tennessee, Virginia, while rapidly expanding. At WynnBET, the possibilities are limitless. WynnBET is currently offering all RotoWire listeners a risk-free bet up to $500 on your first wager. Download WynnBET now. That's WYNNBET. WynnBET, the exclusive partner for RotoWire's fantasy podcasts. A lot of people got knocked out on Dallas against Denver. Chris, it wasn't just merely that Dallas lost this game. They were never in this game. This is one of the first games I rewatched because I just wanted to wonder what the heck happened. I thought Dallas was one of those teams I could believe in. And, is Tyron Smith that important to the offense? Did they just completely melt away without their left tackle?
Maybe. Denver, they dominated them. They didn't score any points till there were 4 minutes left in the game. It was a crush. And what a great thing when to pivot off of Dallas and then to watch and to see that game going and just be like, thank God we didn't do that. It was the obvious thing. It really was just incredible to watch. I don't know. I didn't watch that much of it. I was just seeing the updates. I knew Dak, he had a layoff for a little bit and maybe he was rusty. I'm not really sure why was it so bad? Was Denver just getting into his face so much and getting pressure all the time?
I think so. I think so. They really did get, they were pressuring him a lot. It wasn't just that though. He was off. CeeDee Lamb dropped a pass. He was hurt. Lamb and Cooper were both hurt going into this game a little bit there. And I wonder if that had something to do with it a little bit. Their best play was the very first play of the game. Kickoff return past the 50-yard line. That's how bad it was. What was weird was seeing Dak in there in the last minutes of the game without Cooper, without Lamb in there. It was all their backup receivers. Obviously no Gallup either. But they're willing to expose Dak, who missed the previous game with a calf injury, and Zeke, who just has all this mileage on him. Very weird.
Right? He got hurt. Zeke got hurt during the game. He got hurt during the game. That's very weird.
Yeah, and yet they had him out there in garbage time. Very odd. Dallas got stopped on like a couple of fourth downs. That had something to do with it too, including one I think at the 20 where they easy points to take, and they went for it there. So that's part of it too.
Yeah, I'm as a Giants fan and somebody who faded the Cowboys and Survivor, very happy to see it. What's funny is Dalton has a Survivor pool, and I use Miami, but that one you can switch right up till kickoff. And I thought about it, once Tua was scratched, I was like, oh, maybe I should just pivot to the Cowboys or something just to hedge. And I was like, F it, man. We're the team of destiny. Why would I hedge? So I kept it on the Dolphins. He had the Saints. There's only 5 people left. That's like $3,000 in that pool. So we'll see what happens there. But it's just hilarious. Yeah, the Cowboys, I don't know. Look, I remember this. I always use this example because it's so clear in my head. But the Giants won a Super Bowl in 2007. They beat the undefeated Patriots. And then they started off 11-1 the following year, 10-1, 11-1. And of the final 4 teams that, ended up, being the Super Bowl, the Steelers, the Cardinals, and the Ravens, 3 of them, they blew those teams out when they played in that run of going 10-1. They were by far the best team in the NFL. It wasn't even close, and they were the Super Bowl champions. And their one loss, though, was like in week 5. They went to Cleveland, I believe, on a Monday night.
Yeah, I remember
and
that.
The Browns just absolutely, it was like Kellen Winslow Jr. and Braylon Edwards, those guys.
Pummeled them.
The Browns finished like 5-11 that year, 6-10. They destroyed the Giants, and it wasn't like a bunch of turnovers and cheap stuff. They just beat the crap out of them. They were a bad team, but they just killed the best team in the NFL until Plaxico shot himself, and then Tuck got hurt, and they weren't the best team in the NFL anymore. But they were the best team in the NFL from that Super Bowl run through 10 weeks into the season, and they got destroyed by one team, a bad team. It just happens. It doesn't usually happen so many on the same week where the Bills get beat by the Jaguars, the same week that Denver kills the Cowboys, on the same week that the Rams get destroyed at home by the Titans, the same week that all this stuff happens at once. That's rare, but you don't want to overrate what it means for the teams going forward. I do think, though, that there is more parity this year. There is more, there's not like, I think the Texans are pretty bad. And I think the Lions are pretty bad. I think the Jaguars are probably really bad, but we'll see, right? We'll see if the defense maybe isn't as bad as we thought. I think the Jets are pretty bad, but the Jets beat the Titans and the Bengals, so they can't be that bad. Right. And the Jets, fought like crazy, even against the Colts. Like they made that a game, and make it a game, but they made the cover a game. So, the Jets, and that was with their third string quarterback. So, the Jets are bad, but there's more parity this year than in some other years where there's just a truly dominant team. And the Bucs are the best team probably, but the Bucs have 2 losses, and the Bucs secondary is actually bad and injured. So, the secondary is kind of important, and their secondary is not good. And so there is not like a really airtight team. There really isn't in the NFL.
I keep thinking the Bills should be, but their offense 2 weeks in a row has been pretty bad. That Miami game they got the cover late, but they were clearly struggling all game long on that one there. And then you go to Jacksonville, who is like, if they're the second worst defense in football. I would say that Houston might be worse. And they just, nothing. Their defense was still solid. They only allowed 9 points, but Josh Allen against Josh Allen didn't work out. Hey, and that was cute how they kept on pointing that out too. Everybody was fascinated by that.
I love that kind of thing, but even I barely could mention it in my column because Scott Hansen just killed it for me. It's just too much. It was just too much, man. It was like they just couldn't. Once it becomes like that cliche, it's over. It's not as I miss the Adrian Peterson comparisons too.
Yeah, I know. Tough times. Their defense is still locked in, but it's really funny that since they've come back from the bye, they've been a broken team. It's really odd. And they put up tons of points against Tennessee. It's not like Tennessee exposed something against them.
And Josh Allen slipped at the goal. It was in Tennessee. Yeah. Josh Allen slipped at the goal line. Probably wins that game if he doesn't slip. They're still good. They're good. The Rams are still good, but you see that like they're not that good. They're good, but they're not a juggernaut. And sometimes teams get hot in the second. Tampa got hot in the second half and took it through the playoffs, and they were a really good team by the time of the Super Bowl. And the Patriots that year that I talked about, the Giants were really, really good in the first half. In the second half, there were some closer games, even that they won. And so, we'll see. Someone may emerge as really tough. The Titans are in a very nice run. The Titans just beat, the Chiefs. Okay, say what you want about the Chiefs, the Bills, the Colts, and the Rams on the road. That's pretty good. That's a nice 4-game run for them.
It is. I think there's been times we've been critical of Vrabel, but I think he's one of the better coaches out there. You don't, sometimes he makes some bad 4th down decisions, but in terms of motivating the team about knowing the rules, he's done some really clever stuff. And they've had to deal with their own share of injuries. They lost Eric Henry and they didn't skip a beat.
Well, they did skip a beat.
Offense. Yeah, they did.
But you can't really say it wasn't a good test. We thought it would be a good test, but they got a pick 6 and a pick to the 2-yard line, which they scored on. So they were, and then their defense dominated the rest of the way. So there was, the Rams didn't get in the end zone until less than a minute left. So they just dominated defensively and got the turnovers. So you couldn't really, those guys didn't run very well, but they didn't really have a good test of do they need a good running game, whether it's Henry or whoever, and how good is the running game without Henry. It didn't look very good, but then again, like the Rams knew they were running because they were ahead the whole game.
Yeah, that's right. Good on them. Yeah, we haven't talked. We've spent 20 minutes talking. Haven't talked about our respective teams yet. There's a reason for that for me, but we'll do that in a second.
How long ago was it that the Bengals were the top seed in the AFC? Man, that's a lifetime ago.
Yeah, this bye week couldn't come any quicker. But first, a note from our friends at Yahoo. The new NFL season is underway, and Yahoo is excited to kick off daily fantasy football. There will be a ton of big prize contests throughout the season on Yahoo, including their multi-entry contest now being shark-free. To celebrate the beginning of football season and Yahoo Daily Fantasy becoming shark-free, Yahoo is giving all users the opportunity to claim free $10 in contest entry credit. Users can take advantage of this free $10 contest entry credit offer to join one of Yahoo's biggest contests. In addition to the free credit, Yahoo has a $1 million DFS contest live. The $1 million contest features $1 million in total prizes, including first place receiving $100,000 and an entry to the first ever Yahoo Fantasy Football Championship Live Finals event, which will occur at MGM National Harbor in Maryland this December. Play daily fantasy football on Yahoo this season. Visit sports.yahoo.com/dailyfantasy/welcome to claim the free $10 offer to get started. Thanks to the friends at Yahoo. Let's talk a little bit of Giants first. The defense carried the day for the Giants against the Raiders. You know, none of the receivers did a whole lot. None of the passing game didn't do a whole lot. Devontae Booker looked pretty good, but this was a defensive win.
Yeah, they got a sack fumble to close it out. The defense is pretty good. I mean, you know, these guys, Xavier McKinney had a pick six. I think the defense is good, and they're missing some guys too. They're missing Jabril Peppers and Blake Martinez, both out for the year. But I think they've built a solid unit there. It's not great, but it's solid, you know, in the modern NFL. And Danny Dimes just did his caretaker thing, protected the ball. And as you said, Devontae Booker is a really competent backup. You know, makes good decisions, got good vision. He breaks some tackles. He's not soft. He doesn't have the burst. You see some runs where he bursts through the hole and he gets taken down by his ankles, and you're like, oh man, Saquon might have taken that to the house. But he's a really solid backup. I mean, he's fine. And the Giants are one of those teams. They're 3-6. You know, probably there's three games they got destroyed. They got destroyed by Denver, the Saints. No, sorry, they beat the Saints. Denver, the Cowboys, and the Rams. And the Cowboys, they lost their whole team. It was like a tie game at halftime. So, you know, but most of their games, Atlanta, Washington, they lost to. Those are really close. And this game, you know, they barely lost to the Chiefs in Kansas City. This game was another tight game that could have gone either way. They're like a slightly below average team. And I still don't think Dimes is probably the answer, but I don't know. If he had a good team around him, he'd be good enough to win. It's just that he's not. I don't think he's going to be the guy that carries them to the win. You know, that he's the plus difference maker. I mean, he's all right. So I don't know. It wasn't an exciting win for them, and Kadarius Toney didn't get involved much, and Golladay didn't get involved much. But it was, you know, Raiders aren't bad, and it was a solid win.
I picked up Brian Edwards in some leagues. He got
shut
out.
So did I. Got a 0. Yeah.
Got a big fat 0 there. It's like, oh, I started someone about. No, he just didn't do anything. Well, if you look at Mario's cornerback article, he said this was a bad matchup for Edwards. So I will, give Mario credit there for that. If you read that on RotoWire, the cornerback wide receiver matchup column comes out on Fridays. Highly recommend that. RotoWire.com/try. You see it right there. You should check out that article. But he had 4 targets. He was on the field, but Derek Carr just couldn't find him.
Yeah, he did throw one toward him in the end zone, I think, on one play, but it was incomplete. And I started him a couple places too. I thought, no, Henry Ruggs, someone's going to get more targets. Really, Waller got back involved. Renfro got a lot of short looks, but it wasn't, they didn't do much. It wasn't a really highly productive game for them. And I think Kenyon Drake got a bunch of catches, and that was really it. Josh Jacobs is always banged up. He's always coming in and out, but he looks good when he's moving. He looked like he was tough to bring down and had some burst. He looked all right, but it wasn't a thrilling game by any means.
No.
I was so focused on the Dolphins Texans. I'm the only person. Dalton and I were the only people in the world. I was just so glued into that. I was like switching back to the Giants, but I had the red zone on and I had the Giants game on, but I was mostly watching Dolphins Texans.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
I assure you, you're not the only one that was hyper focused on that one game, though. There's so many survivor interests and so many
but the Dolphins were not a popular pick, especially in leagues where you could switch once Tua was out. But yeah, I mean, it was just like that game was epic. It just shows you if you have enough at stake, any game can be. It was like the most epic game. I was so into it. It was such an incredible game to watch. The Dolphins Texans. It was like a mediocre game with 9 turnovers in it. It was total junk. There were some bad calls or questionable calls, but it was like, you know, it was like Game of Thrones matched with the Super Bowl to me. You know, it was that exciting. You know.
Right. That's right. It's week 9 and one team in the circuit survivor pool didn't put in a pick.
Yeah.
Just
good for them. Nice work. I honestly, I told you my
way to make it this far and then forget to put
my theory on that is they padded the numbers and they don't want to win it. They're just trying to I don't know, because how could you, I mean, it is a little scary though, because, and it is, 1,200 people, one person, like it's due a certain point and you want to wait to get information. And I'm like, Dalton, if I don't forward you the email confirming what we have. Text me, call me, whatever, to make sure I've sent it in, because, it's just the deadline. It's not like the start of the games. It's like 1 p.m. Pacific time on Saturday. And
that's a weird time
it's just a weird, and so we're sending it early, but now we're kind of like, because of like the Tua news, like we're trying to like wait as long as we can. So it's a little, I can understand it, but dude, now this entry, there's 700 people left pending the Steelers. Steelers lose, there'll be like 550 or something like that. Even at 700, assuming the Steelers win, which is a lock, by the way, Jeff, assuming the Steelers win, 700, 6 million divided by 700, we're at like $9,000, 8,800, 8,700 per entry right now. So, it's starting to be, you're starting to, pretty soon it's real money you're talking about.
Yeah, that's right. And our local pool, not local, it's local, formerly local to you. But that one, we had someone that tried to send in the change before kickoff. So wanted to switch from the Dolphins to the Steelers.
Yeah.
And they allowed it, but it's funny, like he didn't respond until after game started, and he's like, "Oh, it's okay if you don't want to switch it now," or something like that. It might even have been after the Dolphins. It's okay if you want to switch it.
We can there's no reason to let me switch. You're right. I was trying to I forgot my pick in that pool. I told you last week, and the
Bengals,
and I got defaulted to the Bengals, and I would have taken the Chiefs, not because I would have preferred the Bengals, but I would have taken the Chiefs just to be in step with the team of destiny.
But then again, some teams must die so others may live.
That's right. So, it's a sacrifice to the gods.
The Saints, at least in the circa pool, were the 5th most selected team, about 10%. I did the rewatch in this game already, and it was Trevor Siemian is a caretaker quarterback.
Yeah.
They don't have playmakers in the receiving core either.
Right.
That's part of the problem.
Yeah.
You need a really good quarterback to make those receivers work. The defense, though, was also a problem. Yes, Atlanta has two playmakers. Actually, the Saints have one in Kamara. The Falcons have Pitts, and they have Patterson.
And remember the Marquez Callaway hype? That Marquez Callaway hype.
I do remember the Marquez
season?
Callaway hype.
Everybody was like, "You got to take him." I'm like, "Why is he better than Traquan Smith? He had a good preseason." I didn't understand why people are taking that guy in like one guy took him in the 4th round, but mostly 6th, 7th round. It just seemed insane. I think Taysom Hill probably starts next week, right? I mean, they can't stick with. I mean, why wouldn't they start Taysom Hill?
Good question. He was in for like 2 plays though. He didn't throw the ball. He just did a couple running plays, maybe 3. Maybe it's just that they want him to practice more this week. I think that's why. But you look at what he, look at what the points he produced last year when he did start in place of Breeze. I think that's the only way they have some upside. They got to get some mobility out of the quarterback spot. If you're not going to have a big guy that can throw people open, then you've got to have something else.
Right.
And the defense was a failure. There's no way that Matt Ryan should throw for 300 against them. But at the same time, the offense set that up. Some of that was there were a couple. The Saints were dropping passes. Right. I think they failed on 4th down twice. Troutman had a really bad drop on 4th down. That was bad, but I don't know. It was pretty ugly all around.
Yep. I was watching a little bit of that game, and I think Matt Ryan is still okay. I think he's not bad. I think that the offensive line isn't very good, and Patterson is like a revelation. I mean, it's like this guy's been around forever as like a special teams guy, and now they're making him one of the featured running back receivers in the offense, and it's worked. It's been pretty good. Kyle Pitts got some targets, but didn't do much. I guess they mostly took him away. He dropped
one on the very first play of the game too. That would have been a big play, like 30-yard play for sure. But it could have been. It was pretty ugly all around. But that was another one where people went down, and it was a miracle that it was close. I mean, the Falcons, of course, found a way to blow it, but they rewrote the script by having the long play to Patterson after that to get the game winner instead. But they should have. They could have blown that lead, and it was surreal.
They did blow the lead. They just won on the last.
That's right. That's right. When it was 24-13 with like 5 minutes left, I'm like, how did they even lose the lead? Well, the Saints scored in like a minute because there was a late hit, and it was kind of borderline on the punt return. Then there was kind of a borderline API. Then there was a roughing the passer on a sack, which would have been a crushing sack. Next thing you know, they're at the 15-yard line. And okay, so that's how it happened. Okay, gotcha. All right. It was
Yeah.
all that drive without any time coming off the clock.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed watching football this year more than ever. It's been a fun year for me. And one of the things that's the hardest to let go of to enjoy the game is ref show stuff. Like
Yep.
I've just barely gotten over like fumble randomness and being like, okay, he fumbled. Okay, that's just part of the game. Just deal with it. Like you seem to be on the right track with this prediction, or this was helping you, but now he fumbled, so now you might lose this game. Okay, it's part of the game. It's a fumble. It's NFL. It's a little arbitrary, but that's the nature of the game. Well, the ref stuff where it's like sack, yes, we got this, roughing the passer, and then you see that the guy grazed his helmet or something, and it's a first down, and it's like turns the whole thing around. Like if you would like percent to win, it would be like 90, and it goes down to 46 on this one play, on this one call. And letting go of that is the hardest thing because it's like human. It's the difference between if somebody like murders you or you die in an earthquake. Like, what's the difference, right? It's just you died. But people are much more mad if you get murdered by somebody than if you just died in a natural disaster. That the ref thing is like getting over the murder is just, it happened. It's just something that happened. And I'm starting to get over that. But that's the hardest one to let go of is the ref show stuff.
Yeah. Trust me, I know. As a Bengals fan, I know that from last week.
It's just very hard to get over that ref show.
You ignore the 17 other bad things that happened.
That's the truth. Well, that's the truth, right? I mean, it's only on the they can do more than on the margins. They can really swing a close game on huge plays. But, well, if your team was slightly better, it wouldn't have been close, or they would have overcome it. Like, it's just like a bad bounce. It's just part of it. And it's sometimes it's worse than others, but it's just part of the game, but it's the hardest thing to let go of.
I'm watching a series on Netflix called Bad Sport, and they did the Arizona State college hoops point shaving scandal. And then they cover this Italian soccer referee scandal. And, there's focus on like, okay, the little things that can change a game and all that. And so it makes you start to be, watching this starts to make you suspicious of, okay, these borderline calls, like, why did they call that? But, and sometimes it makes you start to think of Tim Donaghy and all that. And
it's not impossible. And I'll say another thing is, literally at the Federal Reserve, these guys were insider trading. The actual Fed were busted for insider trading. I mean, it doesn't get, members of Congress are making trades, and there's legislation in front of them that they're, privy to that they know is going to get passed. It's going to affect industries. And they all have these stocks. Their portfolios are like ridiculously appreciated. Yeah. And so, but no way the ref would be on the take or making some aside. I mean, right. I think you want specific evidence of it before you conclude any one call specifically is this, because I think you need evidence. But the idea that it would be happening in the NFL to me is not far-fetched at all, not remotely far-fetched. Right. We are in a extreme, I think society toggles between extreme cheating and extreme corruption. And then there's a huge disaster from it. And then it gets cleaned up. And then slowly it starts to erode. And then by the end of it, it gets really ugly and corrupt again. And then they clean it up. And just everything else. It's like you gain weight over the holidays and you get back in shape because you're like, oh no, I'm going to stop eating the junk. And you work out and you get in shape and you feel good. You let it slide. Suddenly you gain weight again. So you go back in. It's the same type of cycle.
Except you get slightly less in shape and you start getting slightly more out of shape each time.
Yeah.
And then next thing you get slightly more corrupt and slightly less cleaned up.
Yeah. Right. Well, then you just die eventually, as a human. Yeah. But I'm saying society, unless we annihilate ourselves, which hopefully is not imminent, we cycle between corruption and clean. I think we're in a very corrupt time where everybody's got their hand in the till and everybody's kind of looking at each other. It's like when the Astros cheated, it wasn't that they denied cheating. It was that they were pissed that everybody else was doing it and they were getting blamed for it. Right. The whole thing about the Astros cheating wasn't that it was, oh my God, how could we cheat? It's like, no, we're doing what everyone else is doing. And I feel like if everybody else is doing it. Same thing with the
ball, same thing with steroids.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, everybody else is doing it. Like, stop pointing the finger at me. And so if those refs were, dipping a little on the side, like, dude, it's NFL. It's not life and death. We're not like being bought off by large corporations to oppress people. We're just, all we're doing is making a little side money on the Dolphins Texans. What's wrong with that? No, they're not even going to the playoffs this year, Jeff.
Rise and fall of civilization there.
It is.
All right. Got a couple more games to break down. But first, quick note from Thrive. Thrive is back for another season of fantasy football, and they're running huge guaranteed contests each week this NFL season. With Thrive Fantasy, you can eliminate the countless hours of research and focus on only the top-tier athletes that have the biggest impact on the game. Sign up today and get a free 6-month RotoWire subscription. Here's how you claim your free RotoWire subscription. 1, visit rotowire.com/thrive. 2, deposit a minimum of $10 and receive a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. 3, play in your first paid contest and receive a free 6-month RotoWire subscription. Big thanks to Thrive. Big thanks to the Blue Wire Network for your continuing sponsorship. Okay, so I kind of danced around it. The Bengals sucked again. In fact, they really sucked. The receiver sucked, kept on dropping passes. Burrow has 11 interceptions. A lot of them aren't on him, but some of them are.
The Denzel Ward one was a 10-point play that just turned the whole game. It was like, dude, that was just a bad idea. Like, he just broke. It was easy, and it was like once he caught it, it was like, oh, he's definitely scoring a touchdown. Immediately you saw it, and you're like, why would you do that, dude? Just don't do that. Don't do it.
Yep, that's right. That's right. The Bengals still rallied. It was still 7-7 after that. They rallied and got the next score, but then they couldn't stop the rest of the time. They couldn't stop the Browns.
Nick Chubb destroyed them.
It was finally playing like Nick. We all expected out of Nick Chubb. Baker Mayfield played like he got the chain was taken off of his ankle, the OBJ chain. Although who knows about that? We'll see. He
hates playing with OBJ. He's always been worse. All his with OBJ stats are worse than without. I don't know what it is. I can't imagine one receiver who doesn't target that much bringing him down that much. But for whatever reason, he does not like him. Obviously, he doesn't like his dad. And I feel like he's a happier quarterback. He made a beautiful throw to Donovan Peoples-Jones for a touchdown, although he's wide open. But the Bengals are soft, man. They got run over. They just got run over. And let me tell you, who says no, Jeff? Joe Burrow for Danny Dimes. Who says no? Come on.
I say no. I say no. I say no again. I say no now. Stop with the madness.
Yeah. Next week we'll revisit this. We'll see what happens. We'll see if you're more open to it.
The Bengals are on bye.
So are the Giants, by the way.
Okay, so we definitely won't revisit.
We'll revisit it anyway because we'll remember. This will be even more firmly burned in our memories. Yeah, it was just a bad game. I mean, the Bengals. I think the problem is they're sort of a finesse team, and I in the NFC North when it gets to November, December, I'd rather be the Steelers, Browns. I mean, the Steelers can't block anybody either, but the Browns, at least their defense is rugged on the Steelers. You want to be, I think in those environments, those climates, I think it's going to be tough, for them to play that style. I mean, Chase had 14.8 yards per target. He's down to 11. By the way, he's still leading the NFL by a full yard over anyone else.
He dropped 2 long passes too. He should have maintained that yards per target, but he had 2 bad drops. T. Higgins dropped a contested ball. You could say it maybe wasn't a drop, but a top receiver is paid to make plays like that. It was a 4th and 15. Tried to high point the ball, couldn't come down with it. An elite receiver makes that catch. That's all I'm going to say about that. But yeah, the defense is the real problem. 2 weeks in a row, they couldn't get off the field against the Jets and the Browns, 2 teams that couldn't get out of their own way the previous weeks. A lot of people took the Niners once they found out that, with all the talk about Kyler Murray probably not being able to play. And in fact, I think 2 people took him in the Circa League. That game was never close. What the heck?
So if we had gone 5-0 in the Super Contest, we would have won $15K at least, maybe $75K, because we were 8-2, and there's every 3 weeks there's like a mini prize pool, and we went 3-2. The games we lost were the Niners and the Bengals. Okay, those are the 2. Dalton wanted to take the Bengals. I didn't want to take it. We were 3-2, so we're still doing well, but we could have won a huge bonus midseason. And obviously, it's hard to go 5-0, but we were 2 games off, and
But at least you weren't close in either of those games.
No, we were just wrong, and that was that. And yeah, exactly. So we don't feel like it was. So the thing about the Niners, I was watching that, I was rooting for them, and I had Elijah Mitchell, who didn't do much, and I'm like, Jimmy Garoppolo sucks. Like, he sucks. The thing about him, he took 5 sacks. That guy is just so easy to sack. Like, he has no mobility, no strength. Like, some guys like Roethlisberger were strong. They weren't going to like scramble, but the straight arm the defender and push him down. They're just hard to get down. Or Brady would do that little quick step, or Breeze would be hard to get your hands on, or they spin out of trouble. Garoppolo's got none of that. He's weak, he's soft, and he's slow. He gets taken down so easily. So whenever the rush comes, you're like, he's not going to get out of this. He can't get out of it. And then for some reason, like they kept having Jermichael Hasty in the game so much. Mitchell looked all right, but barely got any chances. Ayuk looked great. He fumbled, but that guy has a crazy wingspan. He goes up, catches anything near him. And Kittle looked pretty good, but he fumbled too. But the Niners defense was so soft. It was like James Conner they just couldn't tackle the guy. Just make a tackle. They just couldn't tackle him. Colt McCoy completed like 22 of 25. Come on. There's no Murray. There's no Hopkins. Chase Edmonds got hurt early, and they just destroyed them. I mean, it was an embarrassing showing for the Niners.
Yeah, and Edmonds is a high ankle sprain possibly. That's what they're saying. So it could be 4 to 6 weeks on him. So a lot of Connor. He's going to be he's rostered everywhere, but he's now an automatic start everywhere.
He's leading the NFL in touchdowns. He's got 11 touchdowns in the last 7 games, and he looked good. I mean, he looked like the guy in the Steelers. And he'll probably get hurt next week because that's what he does. But for now, he's got to be a top 10 back. I don't think you can. Maybe even top 5.
Yeah. So we think Taysom Hill should start next week for the Saints. Should they switch at San Francisco as well? Switch off Jimmy G?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, look, what are they? 4-6 or 3-5, 3-6, 3-5, something like that. 3-5, right. I think. And you're basically done. And you traded up. You traded up for the number 3 pick, and they got the stiff starting ahead of him. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Like it'd be one thing if, the guy starting was so good that you're like, all right, we're going to win a Super Bowl with this guy and we'll deal with it next year. I mean, I think the Chiefs might have cost themselves a Super Bowl having Alex Smith in there instead of Pat Mahomes, but at least Alex Smith was like one of the highest rated quarterbacks in the league that year. And he was good. Jimmy G's not even good. And you've got your 3rd overall pick, and Lance, I mean, man, this is looking like a total disaster. Like you've got to trust him. You've got to just let him learn. I don't know what else you can do, but this is,
he hasn't played since before the bye week. He didn't play a snap again yesterday. I don't get it. I just don't get it at all.
I assume he's healthy, right? He's not even on the injury report. They just got to make the switch. I mean, Shanahan, it was weird as Ayuk. I don't know if this is Stockholm syndrome, but he came out and said his benching was because he realized he never really learned how to practice. And he was only playing so much last year out of necessity. Because they had so many injuries to receivers last year. Debo was out and everybody else, and Kittle, and they had to play him. And he's like, I didn't know. Now I know how to practice. But he was so good as a rookie. It's kind of like, really? Is this Stockholm syndrome? Or are you just saying this because you finally got out of the doghouse and you want to stay out of the doghouse? I don't know. It was very strange. But, Shanahan, some weird punting. He punted down, I think, 17 with 10 minutes left. That was 4th and 13, but still he drafts Sermon in the 3rd round, and then, he's a healthy scratch.
Immediately buried him.
Yeah, immediately
buried him.
Right, and
I'm a mad genius. You need to learn how to practice my way.
Yeah, no, real man doesn't draft picks to use them, Jeff. Real man drafts who he wants and then deals with it later. There's no correlation. You think there's supposed to be a correlation between the draft and the regular season that even matters? No, Jeff.
There's such a slew of Niners early picks that have failed under Shanahan.
Yeah,
it's like, is he that awful of a talent evaluator? Is he that awful to practice for? And he's just high on his own supply. I am a genius. You must follow my way. I don't know. It's just something's going on there. Something really hanky's going on there.
I don't know, but it's they just have to be like, okay, we got to audition Lance. I mean, you've got to just give him the 8 games and say, this is, we got to see if because they're going to keep Lance next year because he's the 3rd pick and they trade up for him. But say, okay, are we going to next year with experience and an idea that he's probably going to keep it beyond next year, or going in the next year with the idea of, okay, he's got half a year to prove that we didn't make a huge mistake. You can't just not use him to the end of the year and then ruin all of next year before it even starts with guys like Kittle and Ayuk and Nick Bosa. And Fred Warner on your team. You can't just squander those guys' peak years, by just not knowing that you have a good quarterback. And so they have to play him. I might even pick up Lance because of the running. I might just pick him up this week just because something's got to give soon.
Yeah. I mean, it's so wild to see all the rookie quarterbacks failing so badly, except for Mac Jones.
He didn't do anything last week. He didn't have to. By the way, I officially feel bad for Darnold. I've been harsh on Darnold. I was always, prosecuting the case against him. And I even feel bad for the stats guys who defended Darnold over, said the Giants should have taken Darnold. They're still arguing about it today. I feel bad for them now. Like, it's like, stop the fight already. I mean, they've gotten so roughed up. It's like, throw in the towel, please. This is just an ugly massacre. It's not worth going any farther with this. So, man, it's like Darnold. I mean, Adam Gase is now looking like a genius. Adam Gase needs to get rehired from what he got out of Darnold in New York. This is incredible how bad he is.
Unbelievable. You saw the Robbie Anderson thing on the sideline getting mad at Darnold there.
I didn't see that.
There was a GIF or just a little clip that was going around late after the games yesterday. It's pretty funny to see. Sad for Darnold, but funny to see otherwise there. All right, we got one more game. We'll see if Justin Fields can defy the rookie.
Let's do it. Knock some people out. Justin Fields. Come on. Bennett Carroll talks all this yang like Justin Fields is actually going to be good. Let's see it in Pittsburgh. Tough assignment. You can do it.
Yeah, we'll see. All right. That's going to wrap up today's podcast. Thanks to WynnBET for your continuing exclusive sponsorship all season long. Thank you guys for listening. Thanks for all the comments. We'll be back on Sirius XM in about 40 minutes. And also we got Joe and Jake with free agents tomorrow on the podcast. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.